This is the last session. Hey, you want to rally up? Can you help rally up the? Hey, can you make a round to get?
Geez, lots of Allens.
We're going.
Lots of Allens up there on the chart. Allen. Middle name Allen. Very popular. All right, folks, are we ready? All right, so just to piggyback on my keynote earlier this morning, the results are in from the survey regarding the question around Eric. It turns out he's actually a pretty innovative guy, so let's give Eric a round of applause. Okay, we are at the last scheduled portion of the event. We're going to take it right till 5 o'clock sharp, and then we'll be out at the networking reception. Come on in, guys. All right, so everybody knows me. We've got an esteemed list of panelists here. I'm just going to go right down the line, right to left, have everybody introduce yourself. Go ahead, Dave.
My name is Dave Marek. I'm Director of Infrastructure Services at MGIC.
Hi, I'm Mike Nelson. I'm the Senior Vice President, Director of IT Operations at RW Baird.
My name is Alan Smith, Chief Information Officer, Baker Tilly, U.S.
Erin Allen, IT Director for Strategy and Architecture at Sargento Foods.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Hannan. I'm the CIO at Landmark Credit Union.
Awesome. Welcome, everybody. So here's how the panel is going to work. I've got tons of questions here. There's obviously lots of relevant topics to ask each one of these folks. I'm going to ask them all one question. I'm going to give one other of the panelists an opportunity to add on or respond. And then I'm going to ask the audience if they have a question in regards to what the panelists have to say. Sound like a plan? It still holds true. Anyone who asks a question gets to go to the Generac Power Stage, all right? Sound good? All right, I'm going to come all the way down to Mr. Steve Hannan. Steve Hannan, CIO of Landmark Credit Union. Who has seen that big, beautiful, brand new office right on 94 with that big, beautiful sign, Landmark Credit Union? So Steve and I have done a couple of these things before. We're both passionate about digital transformation and IT leading digital transformation. You heard my story about a manufacturing and engineering company adopting digital transformation. Steve, why don't you tell us how your team in IT is leading digital transformation from a financial services perspective?
Yeah, I would love to. And I, like Tim, pretty passionate about digital transformation, as everyone in the room probably is, or to at least some degree. And in financial services, there's an interesting dichotomy when it comes to digital transformation. It is absolutely 100% the way of the future, but there's also still all of this legacy hangover that we have to deal with. Lots of old systems, lots of big systems, and we have to make sure that we do everything right out of the gate. Because we're talking about people's money and their livelihood. So it's been a really fun thing. And so when I look at digital transformation in the financial services industry, it's, how do we blaze trails to do things that are new and what we think are fun and exciting, and also do some things where we take some of that legacy technology and make it better and more resilient and faster. And as I think about what we're doing with that, the core heart of it is how we do our work, as well as the people that we have that do our work. So when I think about digital transformation at Landmark, we've started a lot with process and how we are working at what I call Agile, but with a little a, not a big A. What I mean by that is we move fast, we do it iteratively, and we follow the principles of Agile, but we're not what I consider to be then, we don't put process over results. So we're moving fast, and we have, over the last 4 years, transitioned from being a Waterfall organization to to an agile organization, and it really pushes our business forward. We're bringing innovation into the organization, whether that's through APIs, whether that's leveraging fintechs, and as well as building things ourselves. And with the goal that it's always got to be better, faster, cheaper, as well as more resilient in delivering the best member experience we possibly can. So we're looking at ways that we integrate the entire experience, and often in financial services, that can be very disjointed. Someone goes in, says, applies for a loan, and you do that, and it's a great experience, and then you sit and wait, and you wonder what's going on. Well, there are things that we can do with that. We can just be just like Amazon and say, hey, we received your order, we picked your order, we shipped your order, it's coming tomorrow. There are things that we can emulate in that today, and looking to other industries that are setting the pace for that. So those are the kind of things that it's not just the technology, it's about how we do it, changing the people, changing the process, changing the thinking, and really getting it to be all about speed and ease of use, both from an internal perspective of how our people do their work every day, but also for our members so that they can get the experience that they want, whether that's a traditional experience going into a branch, calling out our call center, or my preferred method, which is doing everything on my phone. And so bringing all of that to bear for us in terms of, again, how we do the work, the innovative technology we can either build or integrate with, and then delivering that big member experience is really how we're going after that digital transformation at Landmark. And I want to make sure I'm watching that clock, because I know we're the last thing that's preventing you guys from going to the bar. I could talk digital transformation all day if you guys let me.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Can't wait to come out to the new office. And I think what Steve said is anyone willing to apply for a loan on his mobile app, he will personally approve that loan for you. That's pretty much what I thought you said, right?
I will absolutely personally approve that. You just may or may not like the interest rate.
All right, my esteemed panelists, does anyone want to add on top of that around the topic of IT leading digital transformation in whatever industry or whatever company? Going once, going twice.
Maybe I'll add something.
All right,
to that, 'cause
Erin,
it's a
thank you.
A little bit different from a CPG and a cheese company. So if you're not familiar with Sargento Foods, right, we are the real cheese company. We sell cheese, and hopefully you buy lots of our cheese when you're at the grocery store or snacks as well. So for us, when we talk about digital transformation, the first thing that I ask or we look at is, what does that mean to Sargento, right? What does that mean to a cheese company? We're not necessarily in the business of a digital business model transition or a digital product, but we're in the business to help enable and optimize our business through digital transformation. So that means we're spending time understanding what our business objectives are, what our business capabilities are, and where we have gaps, and how can we apply technology solutions to help solve those. So we've been leading, the team that I lead at Strategy and Architecture, we've been leading our business departments through those exercises of what is a mature business capability. And that's been a very unique experience. Not everybody is familiar with what a capability is versus a process. But it's helped us not only from a technology standpoint understand where we need to work, what's our priorities, but it's also helped us understand where do we need to put our strategic investments, our people and our resources towards as well. So it's quite a journey we're on, still on that. We started with a business process transformation and an upgrade of our SAP environment to S/4HANA about 4 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah. And now we are using that as a technology base, and we've still got a lot of processes that we are finding are not digitized. And as I know, a lot of the discussions today talked about having a digitized environment allows you to have data to understand your business better. So we're trying to go after those areas where we need to digitize so that we can do digital twins, do some more analysis without disruption to the business. And getting a little bit more forward and proactive rather than reacting to everything that's happening.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was the real cheese, wasn't it, folks? Holy cow. All right, I'm going to throw it out to the audience. A nice softball for you. IT. Who's passionate about IT leading digital transformation in any industry, in any company, as long as it's here in Wisconsin?
So I have a question for Steve in particular, but anyone who's willing to answer. You mentioned APIs, and I would think that using APIs is a key piece of digital transformation for that external communication. Have you run into, or are you experiencing any resistance from your suppliers and some sub-vendors switching over to an API or supplying you with one or accepting yours?
I think that's a great question, especially for, Landmark, and while we're the biggest credit union in the state of Wisconsin in the grand scheme of things, and we think sometimes that we're big, we're really not. We're a mid-sized company. And as a mid-sized company, we deal at times, and in the financial services world, even the big guys at times deal with places that don't do very well playing with APIs. So we absolutely run into that, and where I look and where we look is, how do we partner? If it's a really good business partner, they offer a good service, a good product, we try to find ways to work with them, and others that are, hey, if you don't have an API that we can integrate with and we need to make a process better and faster, we'll move away. But when we look at, that partner that we want to continue to work with, we try to figure out how we can build something with them. And there are times that we've built our own and then they're more comfortable with that in hooking up with us as a one-to-one. And at times we have one vendor that was a little hesitant on things, and we actually helped them build their own, start their own API set. And we were the consumers of that, because really an API really is just it's not that new, but it's just a nice way to integrate, right? It's not earth-shattering, but it's super important for us. And when we think all of those real-time APIs, we've got a conglomerate of different services and software and applications that all make one. And that's when we think about digital transformation, instead of having a disjointed process along all of them, we're making it all work in one seamless thing. That's the transformative part, and those APIs are critical. So I think it's trying to be creative with your suppliers and work with them and help them understand how not only can you use it, but then how they can create a business model to go and sell it as well.
Awesome question. The future of innovation is in integration. You can use that. I hear one more question in the audience, Mr. Alan Mars. Jesus.
So I'm an SI, right? And in partnering with my clientele in the financial services sector, I found that following a process and methodology is key for the digital implementations that they're doing. And I found that you mentioned you made a move from Waterfall to Agile. And I've also found on the other side of the fence, a number of my clients in the medical device industry, sometimes global, sometimes national, struggle to make that shift, and they're still on Waterfall. And I guess the question is, if you'd give them some advice of how to shift from Waterfall to an Agile methodology, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I'll very quickly tell the story of the first time we did something. Agile, new to the organization, we had a new project that we had to deliver. And when I said we're going to do this using Agile and explained what Agile was, you would have thought that I grew an extra head, the looks that I was getting. And so what I did is in knowing that was going to be there, what now we would call a product owner, but it's really the functional business owner of that. I sat down, we talked about it, I gave him all the prep, and we talked about why we were going to do it agilely and got him on board. So then as we're sitting in there, I had one really good, influential business stakeholder who was willing to be a guinea pig with me, and we showed how it worked, and we showed why it was important. And this happened to be a member-facing external app we were developing. So to be able to go through and run in sprints and do reviews and see that every 2 weeks really helped. So what I would say, the real big lesson learned for those people that are struggling with it, find a really good product owner, business functional owner to partner with and show success, and then tell everybody why it was successful, and not just you as IT, but you really need the business side to speak to why they, how they were hesitant at first. They weren't really sure, and then it becomes that success story. And if you can get one or two business people telling that story for you, the transition gets a heck of a lot easier, especially in our industries where change gets really hard because we've done things the same way a really long time.
Cool, great question. All right, we'll do one more, not for Steve. I know where this guy's gonna go.
Can you hear me? Yeah. This is for Erin. To what extent have you implemented IoT technologies, and to how deep is your digital twin implementation? Meaning, how does it span?
Yeah, so the great question around the IoT is an interesting one, right? We're not putting RFID tags or anything interesting in our cheese yet.
That would be interesting.
I would say, I can't give any secrets out, but I would say there actually did get a chance to meet a creative startup who is doing some really neat things with packaging. Right? The price gets really interesting when you look at IoT and the volume that we do. Well over 2 million.
Oh, more than 2 million?
Oh, yeah.
Another use case of over 2 million.
But we are looking at, and we do have lots of sensors in our manufacturing process. So that is definitely where that is a play for us. As far as the digital twin, that is a very early journey for us. What we have found is if we don't have things digitized and we still are using paper in our processes in the manufacturing environment, we've got to address that before we can really go down too much of a digital twin standpoint. So it's somewhat limited in how can we simulate manufacturing environment updates. We're going to bring in a new piece of equipment. What does that look like? How can we do that simulation? There's some real excitement where we would love to be able to use other data across the company to do digital twin, even in a business model or a resource planning aspect without having to kind of go down a lot of deep analysis. So that's another promising area for digital twin for us.
Cool. All right, guys, we could be on this topic all day, but we've got a few more here we want to cover, so let's move on. Folks, we have to address this. Obviously, we all have lived through the past year, the pain of the last year, working from home, doing conference calls. I was very fortunate to have been back in the office from the get-go. Generac was an essential business, so I was in the office the whole time wearing a mask, but other people have not. So Mr. Alan Smith, the pride and joy of Madison, Wisconsin. How has COVID changed the way you work, collaborate, perform, and deliver in your role?
Thanks, Tim. I have to tell you, this is the first conference I've been at in person since February of 20.
Let's hear it for that.
So this is awesome. This is great. So I usually you maybe you don't look forward to this. I was giddy, giddy to get out.
I would like to see that.
So I'm Baker Tilly, large accounting firm, technically headquartered in Chicago, but we have several offices here in Wisconsin. I'm physically based in the Madison office, although I haven't been to the Madison office since March 16th of 2020. While we are an essential business as well, the fact of the matter is we can do the work that we need to do, as we discovered, remotely. So in March, when I was talking to our chief executive, he made the comment about it's been a year, and my response was, it hasn't been a year since we've been remote. It's been a year since we did $1 billion in revenue not being in the office. And that's the twist. And this,
Bam.
That comment bleeds into a whole bunch of other portions, which is within my team of enterprise technology. We have folks in the US and in the UK. No role is really required to be physically present. We've established that and proven that. So when it comes to how are we going to work in the future, we're going to have to deal with things like digital nomads. Has anyone heard this term, digital nomad? Right? I heard this term very recently when I was talking with one of my support people, and he just looked different. And he had a background on Zoom, and he sheepishly turned it off, and 150 feet away from him is the ocean, because he and his wife decided to go to Belize and spend a month, and he could do the work. And he said that a resort down there had pivoted and targeted digital nomads, high-speed internet, great Wi-Fi, come down, dirt cheap rate, stay for a month. And I literally did
figured it out.
Yeah, it's what I've been talking about within Baker Tilly since last year, which is the pendulum has swung. It's not going to come back to the way it was. And we're all going to have to deal with that from talent acquisition perspective, right? Your market for talent is no longer fill in the blank city. Arguably, it never was. There's your market for talent is now across the United States or up and down the time zones, if you want to think about it that way. Second thing is your competition for talent isn't in Milwaukee or Madison or Wisconsin. You are now up against organizations that are absolutely hiring anywhere. And so for us, when we're talking about how are we going to be productive, are we zoomed out? Yes, we're zoomed out. But what's fascinating about Zoom is prior to the pandemic, people were sheepish about turning on their camera. They didn't want, they wanted to make sure they looked proper. If there was a dog barking in the background, they were so embarrassed, etc. Whereas now, you expect to see families and dogs and pets. And I would say while you're distant, you're closer than you've ever been because people are just more at ease. So I think that's a positive. Now, spending 6 or 8 hours on Zoom calls, it makes me want to drink. I mean, I weighed 160 pounds in last year, and you see what happened. So from my perspective, IT can be tremendously productive, not in the office, and we just need to recognize that. We need to recognize that the fight for talent just went up exponentially because the barriers of geography have been obliterated, and they're not coming back.
Great perspective, reality of the situation. Anyone else on the panel want to add to that? Mike?
I actually would love to add to this. So Baird Financial Services, we had an IT staff of about 200 going into the pandemic. We just hired 80 people. So we're now at 280. Baird is having record revenues. And I think it's exactly what he just described, which is we're now able to recruit talent because we've got the Fortune best places to work. We've got the culture, and we're able to get people. When we stopped worrying about we can only hire in Milwaukee, it was so much easier to hire, and we were able to get so much more talent. Madison, Louisville, Minnesota. And I would say we've always struggled. If you weren't in our headquarters in Milwaukee, you felt like a second-class citizen. We're hearing from our remote associates, they've never felt so much as part of the team because their box, even though Zoom makes me want to drink, and I like to drink too, so that's a dangerous combo. But they say their box on Zoom is the same size as everybody else. There's equality, and there's a connectedness of seeing the family and the kids. So I don't want to say the pandemic was great, but from a technology at Baird perspective, it was phenomenal in expediting our technology adoption, and it was phenomenal in bringing our teams together.
Wow, great perspective. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I also want to add, one of the things you have to do is be very deliberate about some of the things that the people miss in the office, the social aspect of it, the meeting face-to-face. Unless you really do something deliberately about that, whether it's a happy hour on Zoom or sending them, a gift card to have dinner or just doing dinner as a team on Zoom, those things matter because a lot of people that I've worked with before and that at the new place at MGIC, it is about the culture aspect of being social. And you can't get away from that by doing nothing. So being very deliberate about your actions of building that team, getting the videos turned on, not caring about what you're wearing. We talked earlier, we wear hats in the morning because it takes 3 seconds to do our hair. But it really matters to the people to get on video, to see their expressions, to be engaged with them. And that whole aspect of it is a really key piece of being successful in the long run.
Great.
And so if I may,
Go ahead.
not only rings true internally at Baker Tilly, we're actually saying the reason to go into the office is for connections. That's it. You're not going in the office because you want to see NBC, and you're not going in the office because I need to see my people. And they talk like that when you say it, right? It's I want to go in to make the connection. And it really hit home when someone said they can't wait to go into the office to go out to lunch. that people will purposefully, oh, you're going to be in the office today, Tim? Well, I'm going to come in too, and Erin's going to be there, and we'll just go grab lunch together. Yeah. That's the compelling reason for people to want to go into the office.
Wow, interesting perspective. We live in a strange time. All right, question from the audience.
How are you balancing work-life balance with your employees?
Yeah, so I have a very strange way to do this. I actually shut their systems off. Like, I deliberately tell them to get off, and if they don't, and I see their status lights turn on, I've evicted them, and eventually they digitally evicted them and said that whatever you're doing now can wait. We have to be very smart about, as leaders, not sending out emails at 10 o'clock at night expecting an answer. So we have to stop doing that or schedule them to go out. But I have done that where people have been on after 5 o'clock or 5:30. I know they're working a full day. I tell them to get off. If they don't, I evict them, and actually digitally. But they actually learn after a while, like, hey, this is okay for me to do it. So you have to be very forceful in the polite way. But you have to do something like that. Otherwise, we all do it. We're all going to work, because what else are you going to do, especially during the pandemic?
New term, digital eviction. Did not know we'd be talking about that today, huh?
Maybe just to add a suggestion kind of related to that, because one of the things that we have found is we've gotten better at flexibility, so recognizing people do work different hours, and I'm one of them, so I tend to get started a little bit later and I work a little bit later. I just recently did this, and I can't believe the excitement I have gotten from people about this. Is I put a little tagline at the bottom of my signature that just said, hey, my working day may not be yours. This is, if I'm sending you an email, it's not an urgent thing. And I've done that with my team for years, but for people who I don't work with on my team, it's just another reminder for them that, hey, I sent you an email, but just because you maybe saw it at 7 o'clock at night doesn't mean you need to respond to it. And it's actually been really well received. People appreciate kind of getting let off the hook there a little bit.
Nice touch.
Hi.
All right.
Hi.
How did you get that microphone?
Mario Cortez with Manpower Group. We surveyed our employees across North America, and we also saw, increase in employee engagement, increase in employee just satisfaction, but it didn't come without challenges. What would you say some of the challenges were with, the quick adoption of moving to a work-from-home model?
One of the things that was very difficult is the people set up at home. They don't have the same 2 monitors, the docking station and things like that. So there was an investment into some technology. And so you really have to make that investment for the people to say whatever you were comfortable with at home. Even buying desks. We've bought desks for people that had no desks in their basement or wherever they set up. So doing things like that is a necessity. You have to make them comfortable. Early on, people were working off of 13-inch laptop screens, and just buying a couple $200 monitors for somebody made a huge difference in their work life, that they were there, and made it a better experience for them. So you have to invest in technology both in the office and outside of the office. Otherwise, it's gonna drain on those people.
Awesome. One more COVID question, and we're going to move on. We got to move on.
Yep, this is a COVID question.
Okay.
So the COVID really forced this work at home, remote working. What kind of policies do you have set in place for what the requirements are for a person to work at home? For example, one of the issues is security, privacy, things like that. I came from a healthcare environment, and we dealt with, you can't share records and things like that with people. So what kind of policies do you have in place for that kind of thing?
So for us, March 16th last year happened to be smack dab in the middle of tax season. So I want to say I feel your pain, but feel your pain with respect to, as my director of infrastructure put it, I just inherited 4,300 networks, right? Because of everyone being at home. I'm not going to get into the conversation about EPHI, which is really kind of what you're talking about there because of the rules, but for us, as long as you're on our system, so you can only connect to our network on a Baker Tilly computer, we mint certificates and put them on the devices. And to be fair, a vast majority of our organization had worked from home in the past. They just didn't all do it on the same day for 14 months. So we were already there. Now what we did end up doing is for tax processing, we'll run through about 70, 80,000 tax returns, is moved systems to people's homes and physically did some security on the actual devices to make sure that they just can't, if break into the house, what happens type thing. But we were already at 98% of our equipment were laptops. So it was fairly easy for us being in financial services. I can't speak for some of the other financial services. But from a policy perspective, we already had you covered under the policy anyway because we allowed remote work. So we didn't need to adjust anything.
So as a follow-up, you don't have any requirements for a person that works remotely to have, let's say, a locked drawer or the ability for family members to look at what's going on the screen?
So because they don't have anything physical, you don't have to lock your drawer. When it comes to people looking, your family coming down looking over your laptop that's sitting there, to be fair, that's no different than if you're at the airport. It's no different than if you're in this environment. And so the technology we use on screens, you can hit the magic button and you have to be looking straight at it to see it applied. In fact, I would argue that you're in some cases, you're actually in a safer environment from a physical perspective at home than you might even be in the office, open cubes, et cetera. Now, Fido might come and, drool on the monitor or look at it, but I think we'll be okay there. Bluntly, we try not to overthink it at the beginning, and I created a hierarchy of needs, so at the bottom it was just get you functioning, then it was make you productive, and then it was replicating the in-office experience. So what we found is we actually didn't have to replicate the in-office experience.
Great point. Okay, we got lots more to unpack, folks, here. So Mike Nelson, you have a very interesting IT business relationship model, a lot unlike I've ever heard. So what are some of the things that you're doing at Baird to have IT help enable the business with your unique model?
Sure. I get asked a lot of, a vendor will walk in and they'll say, so what's your budget for this project? And it's a really incredibly awkward discussion because I'm like, don't worry about the budget. Is this the right thing for our business? And people are, every place, and by the way, nowhere other than Baird I've ever worked has this problem, right? You have to fight for budget, you have to fight for dollars. What Baird does really, really well, and I credit our CIO for this, is he has such strong alignment with our business. He's mimicked our business model. So Baird isn't a company that tries to cut cost. Baird is a company that tries to gain sales. And so when we developed IT, we did not develop IT to go against that and be counter-grained. The IT strategy is to align to the business. So if they're trying to gain sales, we should be doing things to gain sales. And if that means spend money to make money, we should do that as well. So we actually built our whole IT structure, including our organizational charts, to align to the business. And we actually, I guess plagiarism is the best form of flattery, we're actually mimicking what our business partners are doing. So unlike Generac, we're not leading our firm per se from an IT standpoint, but we're mimicking what they're doing, so we have really strong alignment. One other thing I guess I would quickly highlight, because it's just a personal passion of mine, and catch me after a few drinks and I'll get really colorful, is please stop using the term shadow IT, folks. Please, please, please stop that. That's not helping anyone, and I'll explain why. I believe very passionately there is more technology demand and need than all the IT people in the world will ever solve. Instead of fighting against those people and telling them they can't, which makes them resent IT, partner with them, use them, have them be your early adopters, bring them in the curtain with you. We don't have enough people on our staff. We're always short-staffed, so why are we turning people that want to do technology away? I get you don't want them to go off the reservation and do crazy stuff. Bring them in and pull them close to you. So at Baird, we don't, that's a naughty word, shadow IT. Instead, it's how do we bring them in and actually pseudo put them on our team and utilize them as another resource. So sorry for a little pet peeve rant there, but it's something I'm passionate about.
And if that doesn't work, digitally evict them.
Yes.
All right, esteemed panelists, anybody want to add to that topic, that loaded topic there? IT enabling the business, different business relationship models. No? Anyone in the audience? Unique perspective about IT relationships with the business, different business models? I thought that was an interesting perspective by Mike. Thank you very much. All right, Dave, we're going there. We are going there. Erin, you're next. Talent. We've heard lots of different things about talent here today, guys. Is it here in Wisconsin? Is it not? Is it remote? Is it local? What should we be doing? So what is your view on talent? And this is a broad topic. We can go in a number of different directions.
Yeah, so I have a unique situation, or at least I think it is unique. One of the things that I did previous to coming to MGIC, we were outsourcing all of infrastructure. So a lot of people were losing their jobs or had to find other things to do. And in the engineering world that's coming with cloud engineering, software engineering, all these things that you talk about, the legacy tasks of a typical infrastructure person. I'm a network person, I'm a database administrator. Those things are changing, and you have to prepare these people for that. Regardless if they're going to be unemployed or not, or you're trying to avoid an impact to their situation. So we spent a lot of time trying to find opportunities to get them to move into the engineering mindset. How can we train those people? And it's not simply just send them to watch a few videos, go to a seminar. What we learned, and we experimented with it over several cycles, was taking people out of their day jobs and putting them into an immersive learning experience. And so we took these individuals, groups of 12 to 20, and we built a program around them to teach them the engineering way. For in my world, it was cloud engineering. So day one, we did modified sprints. So instead of sprinting over 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it was every 2 or 3 days. So they learned how to do the Agile methodology, how to do the ceremonies, and they built from that foundation upwards, learning DevOps principles, starting simply with build an EC2 instance in Amazon, add a VPC, all the technology, and you just built upon it. So over the course of 6 to 8 weeks, this was their job to learn this by doing. And the creative way, and it's not something we came up with, it was with the help of a partner. You were building something that was going to be in production for your organization. You weren't building widgets, you were actually building a consumable service. So we built a Kubernetes platform service. And that was going to be used by the organization, so they felt a little ownership to it. But at the end of those 8 weeks, we expanded it 4 more to 12 to even build more functionality within Kubernetes. About out of the first 12, everyone was a cloud practitioner, which was a must. 8 of them became associate architects at AWS, certified, and everybody landed a job doing something in engineering instead of doing their old legacy jobs. So then we expanded that, and we kept expanding it. So I think building talent from within is a must. You can sprinkle it in with a few key strategic partners or senior engineers from a firm. But ultimately, you want to get your people better, and you want to move them forward. For the ones that I say are willing and capable, some people were, hey, I'm going to retire in a year, no big deal. Some of them were just going to go find another job somewhere else. But out of the 200-something people impacted, we wanted to do what was best for all of them. And so building that talent within really solved a couple problems. We felt really good, and I wanted those people because it was my second outsourcing event in my life. It's not a good thing. So you want to do what's right for the people. The second thing is it's hard to get good engineering talent, but if you can build it from within, they have the skill sets to be an engineer, but they also have the skill sets of knowing what your internal company does, and they can actually leverage that. So awesome. It's an amazing experience, and I don't think you can do it without building talent within for those that are willing and capable. So It's a strong passion of mine. I was actually a big proponent of it. I went through all the training myself to experience that, and the other side of it is I think leadership has to support it, and leadership should be doing some things to actually prepare themselves for that as well. So,
Awesome, investing in your own talent. Erin and Alan, I know you're both passionate about this topic of talent. Anyone want to go?
I was going to say, how long do we have? I love what you just walked us through. That's great. We've taken it from maybe a little bit of a different angle, but like Mike was saying, we've had quite a bit of growth. So we've been on an IT transformation for the last 4 years, and some of that has been really beefing up our internal staff in that S4 HANA platform. And that was definitely immersed. They learned trial by fire in the actual project and just supporting it after we went live. On the other side of that, though, we've really stressed, and I stress this quite a bit because my team being in the strategy and architecture team, we are anchored to our business. We've got to know the business. And that business IQ has to be raised within IT. Part of our transformation was we needed to get out of being order takers and technical leaders and getting to be digital business leaders. We have to understand our business, and we have to talk about the value that we bring as opposed to being a cost center. So we really stress, how can you learn more about what Sargento does? We bring in guest speakers to our departments. We try and immerse people in the business whenever we can. So that's a big element for us because you're right, we want to upskill, we want to retain people, so how can we do that? On the other side, we also want to raise that digital dexterity, the data literacy across our organization too. So how are we breaking those silos down so that non-IT people are comfortable with technology? And so we're immersing them in technology, doing tech talks, doing innovation challenges, taking them on wild, crazy bus trips down to Chicago in the middle of winter to just expose them to new things that they've never seen before and didn't realize were possible. So we're trying to hit it from both sides to kind of bridge that gap that Mike was talking about earlier.
Digital dexterity. Write that down. That's awesome. Alan, I know you're passionate about this topic.
I am, and kind of echoing what's already been said. And this isn't anything new based on the events of the last 14 months, but which is easier? Taking individuals who have great soft skills and teaching he or she or them technology, or taking technologists and teaching those folks soft skills? And my experience has been it's easier to take people who have great soft skills and teach them tech talent. And you go, okay, Einstein, so what? What does that mean? It means this: change the pool that you're looking for talent to come into your organization. Think about military. Think about urban environments. Think about, this is not a political statement, think about people who used to work at Chick-fil-A or Culver's, right? It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. Imagine if our help desk ended the call with supporting people and someone goes, oh, wow, thanks. And what if our team said, it's our pleasure, right? You laugh because you go, wow, yeah, that'd be really interesting. And so for us, we're hiring non-traditional talent from non-traditional educational backgrounds. We do target certain, again, ex-military, we've been very successful with. Those folks who have those skills, and I don't care what your tech platform is. We'll teach you the tech platform. And they become so excited that you were the organization that gave them their first shot that you have retention, right? I've been CIO for 19 and a half years. 3 of my 4 directors, 2 of them predate me, and 1 has been with me for 19 years, right? That's an example of, not that, well, you guys couldn't get jobs anywhere. It's the example of you create engagement, you create this bond because you gave folks their first shot. So I absolutely believe upskilling, changing the skills, giving people the opportunity, but look in different places.
Awesome.
Can I add one thing that I wanted to highlight about Baird? So financial services company, we compete with big New York City firms, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Merrill Lynch. And I would argue we win every time, and the biggest advantage we have is Midwestern values. We are sitting at a phenomenal place in our country and in the world where people care about each other. I think you were highlighting that, not just soft skills, but my pleasure and manners and good ethics. And I think if we can't win this Milwaukee market, and I think a key is developing talent so we don't just keep stealing it from each other, we're doing something wrong because we've got a huge advantage, I think, over most of the other parts of the United States.
Amen. Amen. Awesome. Anyone in the audience? Purple shirt.
Okay, I've worked at a lot of companies over the years where management really says, well, we'll just bring people in. So a lot of people that's in the younger ranks will say, well, how do we get our management, the people at your level, to switch over to having like your guys' mentality, your guys and ladies, sorry, mentality. So how would you coach someone to help to change their management to be more people that will develop the talent within their company?
I mean, that's a tough
Zinger.
one. Yeah, no, I
Right back at ya.
I'm sitting there listening to this, and I partially want to say if they can't do that today, if they can't work with everybody or work and understand different people or do different things different ways, then maybe they're not the right manager for that, and they're never going to succeed. It's hard to change those values, I think. If we were going to, I think is setting them up, to set them up for success, you have to the point earlier about Agile, you have to start doing it and you have to show how powerful it can be. And that's just the same way as showing them examples of, hey, watch what I do and look at how we can do things differently. So it'll take time, but that's a tough way to kind of do it. I think I can't think of a way off the top of my head, but it's tough.
So the word that comes to my mind is dinosaur, right? And it is meant to offend. The other comment would be look at it from a diversity and inclusion perspective, right? Look at non-traditional labor, non-traditional backgrounds, non-traditional locations. And if a supervisor's like, oh, yeah, we've never hired anyone from there, say, well, why can't we try it, right? Why can't we at least just give it a try? And you do it, and you have success, and then that's going to replicate, and that's going to replicate, and that's going to replicate. And so that's one. The second thing is, to get individuals to change, they have to believe they came up with the idea. So what you need to do is plant the seed of, oh my gosh, I heard this, and see if you can spoon feed them, and when they see the light, you just sit there and nod and go, God, that's a great idea, boss. And then you support their idea, even though we know it was yours, right? So that would be a couple of tactics to take, and then unfortunately, at some point in time, either as a leader yourself, either have to choose, I'm going to go around, I'm going to work with HR, or you come up with a different solution, right? You can't fix stupid, but you can fire it.
This guy's been a CIO for 19 years, guys. Let's hear it for Alan Smith. Jesus Christ. He did not put digital in front of dinosaur. He just said dinosaur.
I loved it. I was going to say vote with your feet and come work for one of these leaders up here because these folks are awesome.
Cool. Does that include me?
Even Tim.
All right.
And even Eric, who's an innovator.
All right. One last question from the audience on this topic. You already had a question. Anyone else? Lynn.
I'm coming.
Wait. Here we go. Microphone. Introduce yourself. Tell us all about yourself, Lynn.
I'm Lynn Wirtz. I'm from Chicago. Sorry, I was going to say I'm a Bear fan.
Go Bears.
Yeah, thank you. I'd love to know if there's any new thinking on outsourcing.
Zinger number 2.
Okay. I feel like I'm hogging this. Yes, and the first is ban shadow IT, ban the term outsourcing, right? Non-traditional labor, gig economy, or filling the gap temporarily skill sets, right? So for us, gig economy, right? You go into the open market, you have a project, people say, yeah, I'll do it, and then they do it, and then they go away. You can also think about the gig economy internally, right? And so think about what Baird is doing, about how they're aligning and really embedded and mimicking, I think is the term, their business side. Well, imagine if they're developers, if you have a pool of developers, and they themselves within your organization are saying, hey, I want to sign up for that. Right? So you can even go inside. I would strongly recommend embracing the idea of citizen development. And so as I say in Baker Tilly, some of the most sophisticated macros I've ever seen created were created by CPAs. They're incredible, incredible. Does anyone here have developers that develop macros on your team? Right, I don't. Because the user is doing it. So if you can find that tool set that will give individual, if you can do a VLOOKUP or an HLOOKUP in a macro, I think you can use, Power App from Microsoft or some of the other tools or Tonkean, et cetera. So I really don't like outsource, because immediately when you say outsource, it means someone's losing a job. And so by working around that, by saying gig economy, temporary assistance, citizen development, opening it up,
like that,
you get a much better result.
Yeah, and I would add one thing to it is if you are going to do it, you have to do the right thing. So what I've seen in the past where I feel it could be successful or at least help is if you have positions that are legacy, the things that keep the lights on, that aren't strategic, you can spot fill it in there. I'm not a big proponent of outsourcing just because I've been impacted by it twice, and friends of mine and all that stuff. So I'm not super high on it, but I do know there's a place for it. And if you're going to be able to move the people that are in those legacy roles into strategic roles and future roles in the future of the environment, then it's okay to do that sort of thing in the background to say, okay, these are legacy jobs, they're going to go away. Like if we have, something going on in the mainframe. That's a hard position to fill. You outsource it, but take those people and move them in somewhere else. So I think you can spot gap it there, but wholeheartedly saying we're going to outsource an entire department, it's painful if anybody's ever been through it. Me twice. It's not fun to do at all. And so I would say, I agree, I don't like the term, I don't like to do it, but there is a place for it. But try to avoid it if you can with some of those ideas.
Okay. All right, guys, we are 2 minutes after 5. You are invited to the rapid fire question section of this panel. Ready? We're going to start with Steve. We're going to go all the way down. We're going to wrap it up here, Eric. All right, either from a Milwaukee, Madison, or Wisconsin perspective, you could say the state and these cities are actually booming. Things are going pretty well. In order to make any one of these, Milwaukee, Madison, Wisconsin, a tech town, viewed as a tech town both internally and externally, what positive thing that you have to say that's going on that we should build upon, or what is one thing that you would recommend we change or improve to make that a reality? Steve Hannan, we're going to go all the way down. Rapid fire.
All right, so I'm glad I get to go first. Yay me. And they can copy my response, I guess. So when I think about what are those things that we need to do, we need to talk about all the innovation that we're doing, because I don't think that we're seen as an innovative city or area or state, and we got all sorts of innovative things that are going on. It's not just staid old computer operations, data processing. I think that people think that, especially if you go to the coast. We're doing incredible innovation across the board. Everyone in here is driving innovation with or for our businesses, using cool technologies, and we don't talk nearly enough about it, and we can really get people excited about it and get people, jazzed up that this is what we're doing here in the Milwaukee area. And then in terms of one of the things that we can do and we have more opportunity, just a little bit on some of the talent. It's developing the right talent and getting that so that we have enough tech talent to do all of that innovation. And then big picture, honest, I think it's just really that we need to find the one thing to me, and this is a really, really hard thing to pull off, we need one, maybe two entrepreneurial tech startups that really we can bring in here to help fuel that fire. If we're really going to have somebody in Austin or San Francisco or Boston or New York look at us as a tech hub, we're going to have something that we can stand behind as the Milwaukee area. Huge ask. I'm involved in the Milwaukee Tech Hub Coalition. We don't have that quite yet, and I get a little bit of flack for saying things like that. But if we could find that one or two that take off, that really puts us on the map.
Awesome. Rapid fire, Erin.
Rapid fire. This is hard. From a purely personal standpoint, so looking at this group here on the panel, I started my career as a software developer in Milwaukee. And I have watched over a couple of decades how Milwaukee has changed. And I'm trying not to get emotional because it actually really has changed quite a bit. I see more diversity. We've got more work to do there for sure. But it was a lonely time as a developer when I started here. And we didn't have events like this. We didn't have user groups that talked about the business impact or the cool startups that were getting started. None of that stuff was here when I started. I did go out to the coast. I did some work out there. And I realized, what? It's really not that much different. We can do awesome things here, and I am so jazzed by what I see happening in Madison, in Milwaukee, and even in the Fox Valley. There's a ton of stuff going on up there, and you're so right. We got to get over our Midwest nice and start bragging about it. We should be comfortable in sharing that, and the one thing I would leave this group as kind of what you can do about that is when you go to events like this, can you bring somebody along with you that maybe wouldn't have thought about coming today? Or when you go back, what are you going to tell them about what you learned or what was exciting? Share across your company what you're going out and doing, and don't be afraid about it. We've got to get over that manufacturing IP protectionist where we maybe didn't talk about what we're working on and be proud of it.
Awesome. Don't forget about
All right,
lacrosse.
so rapid fire, I'm going to take a Wisconsin view because I'm more Madison focused than Milwaukee focused.
That's all right.
And I do think that Epic Systems would say we are a tech state and we are a tech location. I got, $6 billion or whatever Judy's doing over there to show it. And so that would be the first comment, which is let's make sure that we do a really heck of a good job of identifying those successes that we do have.
Right.
First. Diversity, 100%. Wholeheartedly agree. The third is we're going to have a great opportunity over the next 5 to 10 years. Because as people realize they can live anywhere and work, they're going to want to go to where they would want to live and have great experiences and everything else. And so Milwaukee is perfectly suited to it's a big small town. It's got all the benefits of a big town, but it's got a small town feel. And so leverage that when you're out there recruiting talent, especially from Chicago. I'm a Chicago refugee too, and I saw the light. I called myself a Metro Cheddar. Those are people in Wisconsin who like going to Chicago for seeing stuff. But let's give ourselves credit for what we have done. Let's talk about diversity and inclusion, lean into it, and then let's just continue to remember the great things about this state because we are attractive.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you.
I feel like I have to confess that I'm a fib as well, and I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. Milwaukee's awesome, and I still live in Illinois, and I drive to Milwaukee every day. It's awesome. The lake is awesome. Summerfest is awesome. Sporting teams, the stadiums are good. The teams, I'm not quite there on the teams, but I'll get there someday. We've got great companies.
All right, Mike's just about done.
With great brands, Generac, Harley, Baird. I mean, you get Sargento. We've just got really great companies that are doing great things. The one thing we don't do good enough is we don't work together. We don't share enough. We don't network enough. I come from a Chicago market where more of that is happening, and that's the one thing that WTA is filling a gap, and we need to do more of that. So keep coming to these events, keep talking at the cocktail hour afterwards, and let's share and help each other more.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I would, everything they said.
Bring
I'm
us
just gonna
home,
agree-
Dave.
yeah.
Bring us all the way
Exactly.
home.
I sat in the wrong spot.
You got 53 seconds.
So I definitely agree with, we have to advertise this. Like after COVID and all the restrictions, this room should be filled and we should be bringing people. Just started at MGIC, not a lot of people were like, oh, I'm going to go. And even at AmFam when I was there, not a lot of people would go to these events. We have to advertise ourselves and we have to bring people to these events, get them talking, get them to meet other people. And yes, stop stealing everybody's talent and stop bringing all those other things. And it's really just about advertising the good things and sharing all the knowledge. I mean, there's a lot of innovation going on, and if we're not talking about it, nobody hears it. So we can start by making these things bigger, start attending more of these things, and I think that would be my biggest takeaway. And everything else that was said, I agree with that, just being at the end. And lastly, I got to say, take us home. I think it's open bar, so with 5 seconds left, it's time for that open bar.
All right, well, let's hear it for these esteemed panelists. I think we unpacked every difficult topic here going on today, haven't we? This is the last hour. I think we're ready for a cocktail. Eric, over to you.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you, panelists. It was awesome. Loved hearing. I have so many things I want to talk about. I might just start rambling stuff now, and I'm going to keep you from the bar. Because I'm the one that pays for the bar. And I know that Tim's going to be out there, and oh, Lord only knows. Look at, she's laughing because she knows I'm telling the truth, right? Listen, I just want to say I don't want to keep you. He's going to keep you. I'm going to have Troy come up. We just have a couple of raffle winners. It's only like 5 or 6. He's going to reel through them real quick. But before I do that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to all the panelists. Tim, great job. Thanks so much for participating today. Love the story about Generac, love the stories across the board, because it's not just about tech, it's about the business, it's about people. There's so many different facets of it. And he'll tell you, he won't do it now, but have him do his impression of me about the city of Milwaukee. Just saying, we can't do it on video though, because I'm an East Coaster and things come out. Anyway, thank you all so much for your time. Please stick around. We do have an open bar, alcohol or not, it doesn't matter. We have food from the Brookfield Conference Center actually does a fantastic job. Their chef is fantastic here. So they'll do a couple of finger food kind of things. But stick around, talk to your industry colleagues, have a little bit of fun. We're going to be here as long as you want. And Troy, so thank you. That's it for me.
All right, I'll make this pretty quick. I'm going to announce the companies that had some raffles to give away, what the prize was and who won, if you want to go out and see those sponsors and stuff to pick up your prize, that'd be great. So Fish Tech had a widescreen monitor, David Serra from Clarios. Scale Computing had an Ember mug, Chad Denslow. Nutanix had a Yeti cooler, Chachi Gallo. Vectra had 2 bottles of wine and 2 glasses, Al Platzer. Tanium had Beats Studio headset and a cooler with 2 Corkical wine glasses. The names drawn there in order for your choice was Tim Dickson and David Serra. Veritas had a Vitamix, Harold Neiman. And then the following, they are going to reach out to you directly. So Checkpoint had an LG TV, New Horizons had an iPad, Marco had a Yeti cooler, Xperis had an Amazon gift card, and Viapta also had a Yeti cooler. So I had one more announcement because Eric loves being in the limelight because he's an innovator. If you didn't have a reason to drink today, it was his birthday yesterday. And with that, the bar's open.